Hi, this is Mass Rundown. If you enjoy movie reviews, short, and trailer reactions, you're in the right place. I want to subscribe and hit the like button down below.
Today we're reviewing Malignant. Malignant is a 2021 horror film directed by James Wan, starring Annabelle Wallis as Emily May.
Madison is plagued by disturbing visions, which turn out to be more than just figments of her imagination. Let's start with the good. Malignant was a really good horror movie. It was one of the better ones we've had in a long time. And I quite liked the concept. It was different and it was just fun as well, which is surprising for a horror movie.
A good fun horror movie, yeah. And the movie is very well directed. James Wan does another great horror movie. He's really good at these movies, and yeah, it shows that he understands how a horror movie works.
I think that Annabelle Wallis did a really good job as Emily May.
Oh yeah.
And I think it didn't hurt her that the cops around her did such a poor job, because it just made her look even better.
Yes.
I think what I liked a lot about this movie is how they did the blackouts. I think they were really well done, and it had a kind of Silent Hill feel to it, which I really like Silent Hill. And even later on when you find out why she's having the blackouts and why her reality gets altered in the way it does, it really makes sense. And I appreciated it.
Yeah.
And even from a psychological experience, I appreciated it. Because often you get these movies like, that's so stupid, that doesn't make sense, why would that happen? This kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. And talking about making sense, even the movements make sense in the end. And I know this sounds bizarre if you haven't watched the movie and you start watching it and you're like, how does this make sense? Because the movements are freaky, they are so creepy, and I think it just takes the movie to another level, especially in the way that they've made the movie. But it makes sense in the end.
Yes.
And I can so see that happening, and I'm like, I think I get it. That explains it. The movements are possibly the thing I appreciate the most in the movie, because I think it must have been so hard to pull off.
Oh, definitely. It's very unnatural, and I think the natural movements coupled with the weird reality shifting, the disorientating feeling there, it really made a very unsettling movie, and well done to them.
Yeah, I really liked that.
And the movie's bizarre. I mean, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which is a good thing, because if it tried to be deadpan serious, it would have flopped, I think. At one point the movie gets completely bonkers, over the top, insane, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this is crazy.
But cool.
But epic, like totally epic, and like watching up until that point, I didn't expect the movie to take that mad turn, insane turn, and it's
Deadpool twist.
Yeah, wow. But if it took itself too seriously, something like that would have never worked. Most of the movie wouldn't have worked. So the fact that it was aware of itself in many ways was good.
I think, like you say, it needed not to take itself too seriously. It needed to leave room for the supernatural, bizarre, medical phenomena, crazy thing that it was in the end. Because I think we could sit here and discuss the plot, especially the end, and whether it was more supernatural, whether it was more just like insanity and
medical.
So
then let's move to the bad, and really I suppose it was the third act or whatever. It got very slow, very full of exposition. Everybody was going to dig up and explain to us what's going on and why it's happening. And it took what felt like forever to get to the point. But then it went completely bonkers, so it was okay. So the payoff was worth it, but initially it was like, oh my God, kill me, this is taking so long.
I don't think it took that long. I didn't feel like it got to that point where it was just painful. I was like, okay, I've got that. I saw that coming. That makes sense. I think for me, the worst part, and I alluded to this a bit earlier, was that the cops were just so bad. They were so one-dimensional. like, so boring. And the actors were pretty bad.
Definitely my least favorite part of the movie was the cops.
Almost felt like they were bad on purpose.
A little bit, actually.
And I was just sat thinking, whoever was writing this obviously doesn't like cops very much. Or at least that's what it made me feel.
Yes. And then the movie's quite predictable. And once you kind of get what it's about, you know exactly where it's going. Except for the bonkers craziness. If we take out the bonkers craziness, you know where it's going. So plot-wise, you quite understand what's happening and you're quite fine.
But just the extent of the craziness.
Yeah, it's worth watching it to get to that point.
Yeah, just this one scene alone is worth it. And I think if you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what scene we're talking about. You'll be like, that's it. That's what they were talking about. It must be that. Because you cannot miss it. And then I have a small gripe from more of a medical perspective. Because they talk about a teratoma in the movie, and it's not really usually cancerous, but it can be cancerous, and it just bugs me so much because even though I know it was like linking to the malignancy title, it just stick to your original description because they explain things in two different ways. The first one was like, that makes sense, I'm on board with this. It's a little bit out there, but I'm okay. But then they go on and say, oh, it's also a teratoma. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just leave it. Leave it where it was. They could leave it more of a symbolic malignancy. They didn't have to get so literal with it. It's just like, what on earth are you going on about? Just shush. So I just want to erase that from my mind. And I know it probably won't bug most people because most people won't really get what a teratoma is. Obviously, I don't want to go too much in because I don't want to have any spoilers because I think this movie is definitely worth watching.
Yes. And that is our overall take of this movie. It's fun, it's scary, it's worth a watch.
One of my favorite horror movies in quite a while. This was at least interesting, and even though, like you were saying, it was predictable, there were still parts of it that were like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And I like to see that. I like to experience the thing as like, oh wow, what happened? So just in terms of ratings, I gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8 as well.
Leaves it with a total of 8. I think if you enjoy horrors and you enjoy some unexpected twists, or not twists, more like plots,
yes,
then you might really enjoy this movie. I think it's worth a watch for basically everyone.
Let us know in the comments down below. What's your favorite unexpected twist plot point in a horror movie?
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.
Later.